Hello everybody, this is Daniel with Daniel's Bullion Coins. I have my sweet wife Ingrid on the phone.
Hello.
She's going to be asking questions, and I will be answering them. Let's get that straight.
Well, that first question, it was the question we kind of ended with last time, and I don't think I was real clear in what I was asking. Since there is a spot price of gold and silver, that's
Right.
actually the ETFs.
Yes,
Basically.
the paper price.
Right. So, and like on the stock market, when you look on Kitco or when you look in all these other places, it's always what we call the spot price.
Yes.
That's linked to the paper. Why is it that when people come in or when we go to buy anywhere, not just here, that price is linked to the tangibles?
Right. Okay, so what we're talking about is the thought that one day the silver is going to actually unhook from the manipulated price.
Yeah.
And we've seen it unhook. I remember one time there was something going on. It was back during the Obama administration, I think. And there was an overnight debt ceiling collapse or whatever, and the premium doubled overnight. So
Yeah.
we went from like 20 some dollars, I think it was $24 for the spot price, but yet to buy a Silver Eagle was $48.
Yeah.
And that has happened a few times. That's where we actually see the unhooking of the tangible and the paper manipulated spot price. And I like to also go a little bit deeper with this question and explain it that we have this irrational exuberance, as one of the Fed chairmen put it, where we can enjoy the reserve currency status. And what that gives us is a false perception of the value of our labor, because we go out and we work for half an hour or an hour and we think we deserve these plush living. We live like kings. You look back over the 6,000 years.
Oh,
but
yeah.
what we're doing is we're taking labor and energy and effort from the future and bringing it to the present. And that creates a situation where the silver value is manipulated down because we're bringing from the future labor and energy and effort because we're printing this money. Now, this question has a lot of answers. I could go down a lot of rabbit trails, and I'm going to try to go down just a couple of them
That
here.
one about the fertilizer is
The
fascinating.
fertilizer is a very good example.
Yeah, you told
Now,
me
this is sort of outside the reserve currency status of the dollar, which gives us the ability to pull labor into the present. Now, let's talk about the fertilizer. So, I know it sounds funny to talk about fertilizer in a gold and silver business, but we have taken the natural fertilizer and we've taken it out of the system.
Yeah.
And we've introduced natural gas. Natural gas is the fertilizer today. And just like we had a Dust Bowl situation where they weren't planting and rotating the crops correctly, even
Right.
as it's biblically written to do, we are now taking the standard manure that we used to have. I mean, every farm, every acre of land was fertilized with a manure spreader. Now we have no manure spreaders. They've been scrapped.
Yeah,
And
you
we
see 'em.
bring natural gas into the country, and we create fertilizers now that actually blow up the fruit or whatever like a helium balloon.
Yeah.
And we create these products now. If we have to go back to actually producing the food the way it's supposed to be produced with the correct manure and fertilizers from the animals, then you're talking about a whole nother work environment. You're going to have to work so much harder to produce that. And so then it's the same with the silver and the gold. Now that's our second way of looking at it. First, we looked at the reserve currency status gives us the ability to bring labor into the present. Now, the second one we just talked about is fertilizer and how that we're able to, through technology, produce something that if should there be a dollar collapse, that would disappear. The fertilizer from other countries that we are so heavily dependent on would disappear, and we would lose that advantage. Another thing about it is, third way to look at it is, the dollar and gold and silver are loosely hooked to each other, and they will actually hedge against each other. So the price of gold and silver is able to be manipulated down or held down because of hedging against the dollar, because of the loose connection that we still have.
Yeah.
Those are three short, quick examples, and we could probably do one video on each, go in depth on each one of those.
I think that one about the fertilizer is amazing because you can see how the effort, like you're saying, hardly any effort is put in. So therefore, the price of milk stays down.
Exactly.
And it's also heavily subsidized by our government.
Yes, there you go. There's a fourth way of saying the subsidies that the government can print money, and then it can subsidize the pasteurization of milk. And all these different things that they subsidize. So look at corn. I remember one time soybean. I went out to a friend of mine's house, farm, several thousand acres, his family farm, and they had these huge silos of corn, and the government just paid them each year to fill those silos with corn and then to just dispose of it or.
So basically the government's deciding the price of things. I mean, you talked about capital controls last week, but actually through their subsidizing and printing money, it's another way of controlling gold and silver to keep it down.
Yes,
Is
another
that right?
way. Yes, exactly. They can keep it down through lots of different avenues. It's able to keep it down. And we talked also that if people realized that wars. Okay, let's just take wars for example.
Yeah.
You would not have wars if you had a gold and silver standard, because you're taking technology, ammo, men, all of that effort, and you're bringing it to the now by printing money, printing paper. If you had to fight until you didn't have any more gold and silver, which is what happened to the Spaniards when they lost the reserve currency status, then the British gained it, and then the British lost it when they didn't have enough gold to fight the battles, and even the South, the North and South Civil War. The South lost because they couldn't print money, or they printed too much money, and the North printed.
They were counterfeiting, weren't they?
Yes, the North was counterfeiting the Southern currency and flooding their currency, and so they couldn't buy supplies, and it ended up that they just couldn't keep the men fed and clothed, and so they lost the war. So if we go back to a gold and silver standard, some people say, hey, global warming and all this, those people should buy gold and silver, because if you want to collapse the global warming facade, buy gold and silver. Because you want to collapse wars, you want to collapse the imperial war machine, buy gold and silver, because you can't have an imperial war machine if you can't print money.
And see, war is a huge money maker for the war machine people.
Yes.
The military industrial complex, they want to keep that going.
Yes. Yeah, they have to.
It has to do with the manipulation of the dollar and the printing of money. It's like a little party for them at the expense of.
Yes. But gold and silver is God's money, and one day, there's an accounting. And you look back, to now I don't know where the verse is, but there's a verse in the Bible that says there's dross in their silver. And then immediately after that verse, it goes into all the consequences that the people that fell on the people because they were putting dross in the silver. In other words, they were adding cheaper and cheaper metals and still calling it $1. And then eventually it just became a slug. And the consequences of that, there's like chapters. We may have to look and put it in the comment section. Put it in the description where I'm talking about. But yes, the Lord said, hey, this is going to happen because you put dross in your silver. And it's like 2 or 3 chapters of consequences on top of consequences of tampering with God's money.
It
gold
never
and silver.
ends well, does it?
Never ends well, no. But you have to go back to fair value. And you see, that's the problem. Nobody understands, back to the manure thing, nobody understands what it's going to take to produce fruits and vegetables.
Well, we know a little bit about that, don't we?
Yes. Well, we're so committed to our gold and silver stance that we actually have an off-grid farm. And it's taken a lot to build, and it takes a lot to run it. And it gives us the realization of how real it is that gold and silver are real money.
And we try to do it naturally, even though we do, get the natural, quote-unquote, fertilizers offline, that aren't the synthetic
We
mess,
cheat a little
but-
here and there, but it's
Oh.
because we have that available to us and we're learning.
we're
I
still
feel sorry
learning,
for the
yeah.
people that are going to have to try to pick it up and start learning right
Oh my
off the bat
goodness.
without the advantage of cheating a little bit here and there when things don't work out. So we're getting to cheat a little bit and learn at the same time. I mean, I was in construction 30 plus years and now I'm switching over to farming. You can't just do it just like
No.
that because there's nobody to tell you how to do it. You've got to learn it on your own. They are getting better with YouTube channels and you
Yes,
can sort
we
of
do learn a
figure
lot.
things out. But when we started 15 years ago, nobody was doing the all natural organic farming. And we're doing a closed loop environment where
Yeah.
we're trying to grow our own feed and feed the animals,
We
whether it's
still
the
have to
rabbits
buy
or
feed,
whatever.
yeah.
But we still
try
buy
to get
feed.
the non-GMO. We try to buy that.
Yes,
but
we subsidize and make it easy on ourselves to buy the bags of feed. But
we are 60.
yes.
Our
Turned
kid
60
out
here recently, but we're loving life and having
I
a good
know
time with
it.
the farm.
Yes, I remember you talked about that book you read. I know we're getting off on gold and silver, but the book you read about where the fella who had to
10
with the
acres
most-
is enough.
Yes, where
That
he
was one
tried
of the
to-
best books that I ever
during
read.
a depression or something. when
Yes, in the
nothing was
1850s, he could see a recession or a depression coming because of the exuberant business that was going on. And so he decided to sell his business and go out and start a farm. And he goes out and starts the farm. And just a few years later, I think it was 1857, the economy collapsed. And he could have bought that business back for a fraction of what he sold it for. But the farm absolutely took off because he
Yeah.
was out there. He started the strawberry plants and the fruit trees, and he started preparing the soil. And it was interesting in that book how he brought out the fertilizer thing. That was his
That was the
number
wonderful
one expense. It was above labor, it was above land, it was above everything else. And the efforts that they went to get fertilizer was just enormous effort to get the fertilizer to equal what it takes to grow a seed and reproduce the plants.
Who would have thought manure would be so valuable?
It is
People throw away.
extremely valuable. I remember
Yeah.
when we first started out farming, did a little backyard thing
Yeah.
in our suburban life, I would grab the bags of leaves that people put out by the road
Yeah.
and try to compost those
Compost,
because I
yeah.
needed that natural fertilizer so bad. But then you have to have the green and the brown and you have to compost it, so it's a lot of effort, a lot of time.
It's a lot.
Just a quick side note, I think the answer is black soldier flies, and that's a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
nother video. We'll talk
That's
about,
true.
we'll do a video on black soldier flies, but that is I think the key and the trick, because we have the technology nowadays to grasp
Yeah.
and develop things and produce natural manure. So there is technology that can move us forward right now,
Yeah.
but the technology has been spoiled with natural gas.
Natural gas and may not be there.
And
all
it
the
may not
time.
be there, right? Especially when we're so dependent on it coming in from other countries right now. A lot of it comes through Ukraine. And so we have to think about that. That's why the food and all that is grown, by these natural gas products.
Yeah.
Same with pesticides. We have
Yes.
the advantage of
Oh,
these
yeah.
pesticides that are in our food and harming us right now. But if
And
something
amazing.
happens to the economy, the
Yeah.
pesticides will be gone.
It's amazing how we were driving by the other day and I said, it was like peas or beans or something, and there were no barriers or anything. So you said no critters, we'll eat it because they know
Yes.
how bad it is.
Yes, it's so true. You look at these cornfields and these bean fields and all of this, and nothing no deers, the raccoons, nothing eats it.
We have the hardest time keeping them out of
Yes,
us.
grow something natural, and they'll dig through that wire fence. They'll dig under. They'll go
amazing.
over. If it's all natural corn or all natural beans, they're into it.
They are.
But they won't eat the stuff that grows
No.
out there in the fields with no fencing and no predator protection at all.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It
yes.
is, and that's on another video. We have a Peace and Plenty Homestead channel as well.
Yes,
We need to
yeah.
put some more
Check
on
that
about
out.
that. Yeah. But thank you, darling.
Thank you, baby. It's good
Thank
seeing
you,
you.
baby.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.